So hello and welcome to the 2022 Southeast Collaborative Online Conference. My name is Lauren Clossy and I am the Continuing Education Consultant for the State Library of North Carolina. And I will be your host for this session entitled Love You, Mean It, Learning How to Show Meaningful Support and Appreciation to Employees, presented by Lauren Tolman. This event is supported through funding from the Library Services and Technology Act through the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Please feel free to ask questions or make comments in the chat or interact with other attendees and the speaker within the Whova app for this presentation. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Lauren Tolman. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video so we can get started on this presentation. Welcome to Love You, Mean It, Learning How to Show Meaningful Support and Appreciation to Employees. Now, I chose this title in a little bit of a cheeky way because it almost sounds a little snarky when we say it. Love you, mean it. And sometimes it really feels like that when management is trying to show general shows of support to their staff. They can feel too general, not personal, and they can almost fall short. And so I'd like to talk about ways today to actually show meaningful recognition to your staff. So whether you are an entry-level employee and you'd like to show it to your coworkers, if you're middle management and you're responsible for staff, or if you're a director or you're an upper-level management, this really can apply to all levels. A little bit about me, that's me there. I'm the head of the Marketing and Communications Department at Utah Valley University's Fulton Library. I am responsible for outreach, social media, and marketing library services to student, faculty, and staff. I'm also responsible for a lot of internal communications and consulting with different departments within our library. I have my Master of Education degree with a literacy emphasis from Cal State Fullerton. And I have my Bachelor of Science degree with an English emphasis from UVU, where I work now. So I have worked in the library field for 18 years. I have extensive management and training experience. So really, this presentation is based on a lot of years of working with staff at different levels. I started my library career at 18 as a page, and I have worked in every single job in the library. I've been a storyteller, I've been a clerk, I've been a library assistant, I've done various positions. My management credentials in 2014 was my first foray into managing staff. As a children's librarian, I was responsible for an assistant librarian and 4 storytellers. And then my staff duties increased from there. We had 3 staff added to my crew. In 2020, I was promoted to a library supervisor, where I was in charge of several assistant librarians and storytellers, as well as the volunteer coordinator of dozens of teen and adult volunteers. And I was in charge of 35 staff. So just general wellness, communications, advising for a staff of 35. Today, I directly supervise 2 in my marketing department, and I consult for our staff of 80 here at Fulton Library. So I've worked with people for quite a long time. The library field is my home, and I know its struggles and I know its potential. So today I really want to help employees and supervisors, managers reach that level of showing staff how much you appreciate and recognize what they do. Okay, our goals for today. I would like to help you understand your staff and their personalities. Here in the library world, there are all kinds of people that make up our staff. Your catalogers are not going to be the same as your storytellers. Everybody's needs are different. And even within your different sub-departments, your storytellers are not going to all have the same needs. Your clerks are not going to all have the same motivations. So when we understand our staff and their personalities, we can then go to goal number 2, which is learning ways to tailor appreciation to employees' individual needs. I'll get more into that in depth in this presentation, but it is really important to target what employees need and what really speaks to them personally in order to be an effective communicator. And finally, by showing effective appreciation and recognition, we are going to help you improve staff engagement and retention. That is our ultimate goal. So we want our staff to have their best output and to want to stay in our organization. Because as you know, when you lose staff, if staff are dissatisfied, you have to hire, you have to train. It wastes tons of time and money if you're having tons of turnover. So we can improve that by showing appreciation to our staff. No matter where you are in your employee structure, whatever your time and monetary resources are, growing your appreciative communication skills is an achievable goal, and we're going to help you start that today. Some statistical background on why this topic is more important than ever. We have seen an average of 3 to 4 million Americans quitting their jobs in the past 18 to 24 months. It's a little bit directly related to COVID. It's had this domino effect. It peaked in November of 2021 when 4.5 million Americans quit their jobs. So this article from MIT talks about the top predictors of attrition during what they're now calling the Great Resignation. Toxic corporate culture, job insecurity and reorganization, high levels of innovation, which I thought was really interesting. It sounds like a positive to have an organization that emphasizes innovation, but in the survey that they did, or the study that they did, the high levels of innovation in your organization, it really was leading employees to feel burned out because it was constant higher expectations and pressure to move faster and do better and do more things. And it really weighs heavily on employees. Next was failure to recognize employee performance. And finally, a poor response to COVID-19. Here in the library world, I think we feel that pretty acutely. There have been so many times when we've had to pivot from our traditional library duties to virtual to a hybrid model. And as COVID-19 statistics have shifted and changed and guidance from the CDC has changed, it has really affected our employee output and what we are offering to our communities. And so I also think that goes hand in hand with high levels of innovation. We've had to adjust our duties like never before. And I think we can all agree that that has been tiring. So let's go to our next slide. This is from the MIT article as well. So it says the failure to appreciate high performers through formal and informal recognition is another element of culture that predicts attrition. A failure to recognize performance is likely to drive out a company's most productive employees. This is not to argue that compensation and burnout don't influence attrition. Of course they do. The important point is that other aspects of culture appear to matter even more. I think that this is pervasive throughout all industries, and I think that they have a compelling point here that compensation matters for employee retention and keeping your staff happy, but the love for your job and a positive working environment matter equally, if not more. So when they're studying all of these resignations, or they're studying staff leaving industries completely, it is because the culture and because they are not feeling seen and appreciated. So this is extraordinarily relevant to the library world. We have seen a mass resignation for many reasons, but this article from Business Insider, it talks about a library employee who had worked in the library industry for quite a few years, and she had some pretty simple requests of her employer. She wanted to work remotely. She needed this in order to work 2 jobs and to have a balance with her family life. And she says, at that point, I was ready to get out, even if it meant leaving a job that I loved for self-care in order to heal from the bullying, toxicity, and undue stress it was causing to my marriage and family life. She said, I chose to be happy. So her boss could have heard her and could have managed to keep her with really a simple request. She was very open in her communication that there were some workplace elements that were not conducive to her leading a balanced and satisfying work life and home life. So I have personal experience with this. I loved my previous job in a public library, but as resources became strained, as duties changed and increased in the wake of COVID-19, as patrons became increasingly hostile, and as management failed to support its staff, I couldn't do it anymore. So I had worked in libraries for the entirety of my professional career, and I was still passionate about library work, and I loved taking care of the community, but no one was taking care of me. I felt depleted creatively because of this lack of support, and it was like my efforts were not being seen. So I pivoted, much like this employee in this article. I'm still in the library field, but now I'm in an academic library and I'm focusing just on one aspect, marketing communications. But I have fewer staff to directly manage. I have less demands on my time. I have recognition from management. And so I can testify that it has made a world of difference to feel like your needs are being met. So I'm a personal example of how these shows of appreciation are extremely important. Okay, so what we're going to try to do with showing appreciation, our ultimate end goal, or our beginning goals are to root out issues that contribute to a toxic culture. This could be gossip, this could be unequal workloads, this could be staff that need more training, or you could need more staff. There are several root issues that contribute to this kind of dissatisfactory environment for your employees. So that's one thing to really take a look at. And then once we have figured that out, we're going to work to recognize the performance of productive employees in both informal and formal ways. And these both matter and they have to be personal. So if we're going to work to inspire engagement and investment, these are two of the first steps that we need to take. So the majority of my presentation, besides being based on my experience, is taken from the 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace by Gary Chapman and Paul White, first released in 2011. And they found these 5 results of staff feeling appreciated. So first, the quality of workplace relationships improves, therefore addressing that toxic workplace culture that we're trying to avoid. Productivity increases. As managers and supervisors, we know that although staff appreciation and happiness is important, ultimately we have to be doing a good job and we have to be meeting our metrics and serving our community and working first. Next, internal conflict declines. I think that goes hand in hand with the quality of your workplace. Turnover decreases. From an HR standpoint, this is really important because we know how much time and money is lost in hiring, interviewing, training, taking care of all those things. And finally, customer satisfaction rates rise. May sound like an obvious statement, but when your staff is happy, patrons know it, students and faculty know it. When your staff is unhappy, they are not being creative, they are not being kinder to employees, and it's really hard for them to do their job, which is to serve the customer first. So I think these are really fantastic results, and we would love to see that with our happy staff. Okay, next I'm going to ask you, what is a memorable way that you have been shown appreciation? So I'm going to go ahead and leave you about 60 seconds, so a minute to answer this in the chat. Right. While you're finishing up your memorable moments to share with us, I recently got a message in so I run the social media here, and I had posted something about resources for helping and coping with some recent world news that's been going on. And one of my coworkers wrote to me, "You are doing such a great job. We've never been very nimble about responding to things as they happen with our social media. I felt proud just now to see our library making a statement with some ideas for staying informed. The photo was great too." And to me, that was like one of the most recent memorable ways that I've been shown appreciation. It was personal and it showed me that I'm on the right track with my duties, and it affirmed my success with it really was a small task, but it meant a lot to me that my coworker reached out to say that she saw what I was doing and that I was, doing good things in my job. So seemingly small, but it meant a lot to me. So we'll talk about some of your shares here in the chat. And go ahead and take another minute to follow up on the example that you shared and how that show of appreciation affected your productivity in the workplace. Did it have a direct effect, and how did that change you? Okay, so as we get into the meat of this presentation, I want to give a little warning that these different languages that we have, one way does not work for every employee. So where I got a really sweet message in my Instagram, I don't know that that would work for everyone else. So I found some memes that I thought were pretty funny. So on the left, we have a drowning, hardworking, underpaid employee, and then maybe a well-meaning manager, but really a pizza party is not what these employees needed. So instead of giving them a hand to pull them out, they gave them a high five. The pizza party kind of fell flat. In the middle, we have a meme from the office. Somebody wrote over it, "Sorry, I annoyed you by saying, 'What can I get for you?'" So if you're somebody who really doesn't need an offer of help, that language of appreciation is not going to mean anything to you. It might quite honestly annoy you. And then I have a meme from an account called Middle Class Fancy. It's a job interview. A boss says there are pros and cons with working here. Okay. Like, we arrange lots of fun activities for the employees, and the interviewee says, right, I'm pros. So maybe that is not something that appeals to them. So it's going to be a detractor to working in that job. So just keep that in mind. This is a really important concept that each employee has different needs and different ways of communicating. Okay, so here it is. Here is the book. I first read this as a new manager about 8 years ago, and I have used it pretty consistently through the years. This is a book, or this is a concept that this duo actually, it began as the 5 languages, the 5 love languages. So in a relationship, in a marriage, people speak different languages. Your love language is gifts, or your love language is physical affection. And they took this and they applied it to the workplace. So took the love out of it and they turned it into recognition and appreciation. So how we can empower organizations by encouraging people. So here's the rundown. Here is the gist. People receive and process acts of appreciation in different ways. So just like I shared that meme, our primary language communicates personally to us, and that directly affects our work motivation. So although as individuals, we can certainly recognize that a pizza party or a group hang might be a show of appreciation. We will not feel truly encouraged. It won't reach us deep in our soul if it's not communicated to us in our primary language. So as group efforts certainly have their place in the workplace, the purpose of these general shows of recognition should really be camaraderie among staff or team building. And because these personal shows of appreciation, these customized, these tailor ways, they have greater individual impact. And that's really what we're trying to work on here, is helping each individual employee reach their maximum potential and level of engagement. So here are the 5 languages: words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, tangible gifts, and physical touch. And that last one is kind of a questionable one. I'll get into that as we talk about more of them, but we're going to focus on the first 4. So you have a primary language, you have a secondary language, and the rest hold very little meaning for you. These shows may even have the opposite effect, interestingly enough. So if you are someone who really likes to hear words of affirmation and you have a boss who offers to help you out with things, that might be incredibly detrimental to you. You might think your boss is offering because you don't know what you're doing or you're not capable, when really, if your boss's language is to show acts of service, they could be missing the mark thinking that's what you want to hear. So it's really important to try to get to know our staff and what languages they are speaking and understanding, receiving. So to discover your staff's languages, first, don't assume. Don't assume that they want help or gifts or high fives or handshakes. Ask them one-on-one. Don't ask them in front of your group of people. Do you like this? How do you take appreciation? Next, observe their reactions to your appreciative acts. This is going to be really key in helping you understand them. And finally, it might take a lot of trial and error. You might need to try several means of showing your appreciation. So this book, I would have, if you have it in your collection, maybe have your staff read it to try to understand if you would like to just ask them straight out, what's your love language? What's your language of appreciation? There are online quizzes you can take. There are several ways of determining which method is true to you. The book also suggests to observe your staff's behavior and what they do for others. So I have a staff who always buys drinks for staff or brings treats, and she generally uses gifts to relate to other employees. So that tells me that gifts of appreciation is her language. Observe of what they request of others. Are your employees asking for help? Are they inviting others to spend time on projects, etc.? Those would indicate that they are one where acts of service is their language or quality time is their language. Another revelatory aspect would be to listen to their complaints. So listen to what they're saying when they are complaining about the workplace, because this will reveal what they're lacking. If they're saying, wow, we don't get gifts. Our gifts at Christmas stink. Or I don't remember the last time I was recognized for an achievement. They're telling you what their languages are through their complaints. So you don't have to be married to this concept of the 5 languages of appreciation. There are several personality type concepts that you can work with. One that I have staff that really like is the Enneagram. There are tons of quizzes online that tell you if you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, and how you communicate when you're in growth, or how you communicate, like what your wings are. So you can delve into that. There are Hogwarts houses. If you have a staff who is a Hufflepuff, you know that they might need a little more TLC, or they love affection, or you can talk about zodiac signs. There's tons of personality studies. You don't have to be completely tied in with the 5 languages. You can have fun with it. and just kind of get to know your staff. I know we don't want to get personally invested too much in work, but it matters to your employees to feel like they're seen and heard personally. All right, so let's get into the different languages. So this first one is words of affirmation. So what this is your employee might like praise for accomplishments, recognition of their character traits. These are things that really, no pun intended, speak to them. So what they like to hear are compliments, affirmations, kind words. And how you can do this is one-on-one with them, in front of others, spoken or written. You can send notes, you can send cards, you can write emails, but make it specific and make it directly to them. So here's an example that you could say. Your recent weeding project was a big help to the library. I am grateful you took the initiative to coordinate and implement it. I really admire your contributions here. One thing to avoid with your employees who like words of affirmation is making this general. So if you saw this weeding project happen and you said, great job, thank you, that means very little to them. They're going to take it like you don't see what they're doing, and you really don't appreciate the details and all of the work that goes into a project like this. Another thing to avoid with your staff who speak in words of affirmation or who receive words of affirmation, avoid criticism. There is certainly a time and a place for employee feedback. None of us are perfect, but if you're going to do so, please speak of it optimistically and handle these things one-on-one. So they really are going to respond better to praise and recognition first, and then tying it into ways they can improve in a one-on-one meeting. Next, for your employees who their language is quality time. So this is undivided, focused attention between the two of you. So this is one-on-one time, no interruptions, face-to-face. How you can do this, one-on-one meetings again. And when you're doing these meetings, maintain eye contact, limit your distractions such as your phone, your email, your office phone ringing, your door open, staff coming and going. Don't talk to them in the middle of a program or a desk shift. Really make it limited with distractions and listen with intention. Some things you can do are celebrations, doing things together, team building activities. These kinds of things really speak to our quality time language speakers. So an example of what you can do is to stop by, sit in their office, check in with them, how things are going. So this is an informal way of letting them know that you see them, and spending time with them is your way of showing your appreciation. Things to avoid with our quality timers: avoid long periods between your one-on-ones. Avoid spending more time with their teammates than them. These employees notice these things. They notice the lack of quality time with them. So really make it a point to make sure that you are spending that undivided time with them. Next, we have acts of service. So what this is providing assistance to your employees. When I first became a manager, the one thing that my mom said to me, because she had been in management for most of her career, she said, don't ask your employees to do anything that you wouldn't do. So for those speakers of acts of service, if you are asking them to do things that you would never do yourself, that can be quite demeaning to them, or it shows them that you think that you're above them. So really step in, do these things with your staff. So providing assistance to your employees using action words such as I can, I will, what else can I do? And so ask them, is there anything I can do to help? Serve voluntarily, help with projects, do acts of service for them. So an example would be, I'm pretending this is a director in this picture, in this stock photo. They could do a story time for you. I can think of nothing kinder than to take one story time for your staff member if they're feeling burnt out. It's a half hour and it would mean the world to them. You could also assist staff in cleaning up equipment and materials at the end of a program. For these language speakers, you really want to avoid ignoring requests while helping others or not following through. They are going to notice if they're doing things that you wouldn't do, or they're going to notice if you offer an empty offer. So if you say, "Can I help?" and then you don't, or you ask, "What do you need?" and you don't follow through with their expression of what they need. Next, we have tangible gifts. So giving thoughtful presents is one of how we can do that. Let's see. So they really like to have positive personal things to them, so that the fact that you took the time to find out what they liked and that you did that for them, that means everything. So you can take the time to find out what's important to them, make it personalized. They really appreciate gifts for milestones or gifts for achievements. So something that you could do would be to give a gift card for your employee's favorite coffee spot or a travel mug for their coffee breaks. If you notice that they're a coffee fiend, they would love to feel seen and that you did that for them. Really want to avoid, with these tangible gifts, avoid missing milestones, missing achievements, giving generic gifts. They notice and they feel it deeply. So these do not have to be expensive. One thing that I encourage most workplaces to do is to have a fund for staff appreciation. So have it within your library. You can also reach out to your human resources for your city or your university or the larger organization that you're under. They usually will have funds or swag or things that you can give to your employees, because it is important to them as well to retain employees through gift giving. So don't do it on your personal dime. Don't make it above and beyond. Don't live outside of your means with these gifts, but seek out those resources that you have to fulfill this need. Okay, physical touch. This is a tricky one. I would say try to seek out a primary language other than this. This can be really hard. Work appropriate affection literally would just be high fives or handshakes. A lot of workplaces avoid using this language altogether to avoid any misinterpretation or discomfort. So I really think that it is okay to rethink this concept or to disregard it. Just be very cautious and extra sensitive to appropriateness. Observe others' reactions to see their comfort level with affection. Be warm and supportive. So this one, I really think you can show it through your actions and your tone. I would not take it farther than high fives or handshakes. So hugs maybe in some circumstances, but this one is really a gray area that you are welcome to focus on the other 4 languages. Okay, so keep it simple. We are all busy, and keeping it simple helps you to utilize your resources wisely. I think it's far more important to personalize your recognition than to go over the top. And you can. There are limits on your time. There are limits because of how many employees you have. It's impossible to maintain and keep things equal to all. So really keep it simple. As long as it's personal, it's going to go a long way. So next, be the impetus. By effectively communicating appreciation and encouragement to others, you can be the impetus that creates a positive work environment for yourself and those around you. You have a responsibility to those in your employ to look out for their productivity, which goes hand in hand with their workplace satisfaction. So by studying them, observing them, having open communication with them, you can really communicate effectively your appreciation and encouragement to your staff members. So we have some practical goals here. So initially you want to determine what your resources are. So like we said before, what are your time capabilities? What are your funding capabilities? So if you have that budget for staff appreciation or your greater organization has that, think about how much time is going to be involved in getting to know your staff. So that's the first place you're going to want to start is your time and your funding. Don't go outside of your capabilities here. So next we want to get organized. So you'll just make some quick notes, schedule out your evaluations, schedule out your meetings with them, start to write down what your different employees' needs are or what your observations are. You're not going to want to use a huge chunk of time on all of this. So quick notes are great. And you should have a personnel file on each of your staff members. So keep that in there. You know, Lauren really loved a gift of appreciation. Lauren really loves soda. Let's get her a soda gift card. Things like that will really help you to have a meaningful and a purposeful way of approaching this. Next, your regular one-on-one check-ins. I know this is not feasible day to day, but a quick note, a quick drop in, the informal ones are great. You also need to have your formal one-on-ones, whether every 3 months, 6 months, certainly your yearly evaluations. Whatever your employees' language of appreciation is, they have to know that you're there and you're listening. Make yourself present for them in regular formal interactions. So I want to repeat this slide that we showed before and what is going to happen when you speak your employees' languages to them and you show them your means of appreciation. The results of them feeling appreciated. The quality of workplace relationships improves. The productivity increases. Internal conflict declines. And who of our managers does not want internal conflict to decline? Turnover decreases and customer satisfaction rates rise. These should hopefully ring true to all of us because when you personally feel like your work matters, and it does, these results will happen. All right, in conclusion, no organization is perfect. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses. But when employees engage in communicating appreciation and encouragement in meaningful, personal ways, good things happen. So we have been through so much in the last 2 years. I'm sure that several of you have been affected by the Great Resignation. And while you might not have control over how much you're able to pay your employees, you should fight for that, but you might not have control over it. What you do have control over is showing your staff how much they mean to you. You have control over what your workplace environment looks like. And as we saw before in our earlier slides, pay is a factor in the Great Resignation, but more important to employees was the workplace culture, the workplace treatment, and having good management. So we can avoid these mass employee leavings by improving the workplace culture. So please feel free to contact me. I love to talk to other librarians. I love to consult. I'm here to listen. I'm here to give you practical advice. There's my email. There's my phone number. You can find me on Instagram at Librarian Joy. I picked that username because I really believe and feel the joy of the library world. Here are my references. You can find all these articles online. You can hopefully find this book in your library or your local bookstore. I wanted to specify or kind of give a disclaimer that there are a lot of paid classes or paid quizzes in order to find out your languages of appreciation. Don't do that. Read the book, find a copycat quiz online. There are plenty of ways to determine what your different workplace languages are, or if you choose to go another route like the Enneagram or your Hogwarts house, all of those resources are out there as well. So I will leave time now. I will be answering your questions in the chat. If you are not able to reach out to me there, I'm happy to answer your questions here. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. That was great. And thank you to everyone who is attending our webinar today. If you have other questions, please feel free to reach out to the speaker or to us as conference hosts within the Whova app. And an evaluation of the webinar is provided with the conference session resources. And we welcome your feedback about this session and about the conference itself. So thank you to everyone for making the 2022 Southeast Collaborative Conference successful. And we will see you all next year.